Help protect yourself. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination today and learn more at knowpneumonia.com. That's KNOW pneumonia.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome into the Roundtable. It is another Wednesday morning here on WGNS. Chip Walters with you from Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates, and the Blue Raider Network. And to give you full disclosure on this morning's show, we are traveling up to Lynchburg, Virginia for Middle's basketball game on Thursday night against the Liberty Flames. And that being said, I'm awfully excited. A guest that I've been wanting to have on this show for a long time, and just my fault that I didn't just jump out and ask a whole lot earlier. But the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, is here today. And Mike, how you doing?
I'm great, Chip. All you have to do is ask.
I understand that. I understand that now, but I know you're a busy guy. And I will, again, part of the full disclosure, we're recording this on Sunday afternoon. And I had the TV on the Pro Bowl games, Mike, and I was waiting for Gabe Kaplan and Charles Nelson Riley to come out as part of the Battle of the Network Stars. That's kind of what the Pro Bowl has kind of evolved into now.
It has, but I think probably a better thing that they took the step. It had gotten to the point, Chip, where, nobody wanted to tackle anybody.
Right.
And nobody wanted to run into anybody, period. And you could understand it. These guys are being paid millions of dollars, and if you get wiped out in a game that doesn't mean anything and you cost yourself $20 million next year, what have you done? Now, it can happen anywhere. You've seen it. People get hurt working out. Jeffrey Simmons got hurt in February training in Miami before the 2019 draft. And so it can happen. But I think they decided to take the step of saying, bottom line, it's a fan-centric event, so let's make it fully fan-centric. Let's let people have great access. Let's let the guys have fun. Let's make it family-centric. Am I disappointed that it is not what the NBA All-Star Game is or the Major League Baseball All-Star Game is? Yes, I am. But I just think with the contact element, kind of like the NHL All-Star Game, you have to understand where these guys are coming from with all this.
Yeah, and really probably in football, it is probably one of the harder all-star games if you wanted to actually have a real game to actually put together in a week span, because basketball is basketball. You've got such individual skills there. The same goes for hockey, and baseball is not as much of 11 on 11, so to speak. But, it is, and it seemed like watching the television on Sunday afternoon, the guys were having a big time and enjoying themselves. And so that's kind of part of what it is. If they're having fun, then the fans are going to be having fun.
Well, and they'll show up.
Yeah.
And so for a league event, which unbelievably people watch on TV, the Pro Bowl, even in its current form, still does better than a lot of postseason events in other sports in terms of television viewing. In 2023, the NFL had 93 of the top 100 television programs of the year. And it's just, that's why they don't do away with it. It is a television juggernaut. We're getting ready to go to Indianapolis and have the combine, and it will be a juggernaut for that weekend. And then when we have the draft, April 25th through the 27th in Detroit,
huge.
It's the same thing. The schedule release in May is something that is it's a ratings bonanza. So they're not giving up any ratings. Those people aren't dummies in New York City who run the NFL.
When you started doing this, was this 20? How many years for you now with the Titans?
Getting ready to start 27.
Starting their 27th year. Did you have any idea what a media monster the NFL was then and has now evolved into?
Yes, I did, which is why I wanted the job,
Right.
because I was fascinated by their business model. I was fascinated by how they drew so many people for the Super Bowl. And when I was working in college, I used to read every chance I could, sporting news or anything else that would have some sort of backstory on the business of the NFL. And it fascinated me because I knew what college sports were in this part of the country.
Mhm.
And I was always dumbfounded about how other parts of the country, college sports are kind of like, I mean, in the Northeast, they don't care. I mean, they like some basketball and they'll get interested in the national championship game and things like that. But they talk pro ball. They don't talk college ball. And so I was like, how can that be? And then you see these numbers and you researched it. And so when the chance came, that was the part of it I wanted to see for myself. Now, it's a lot further along than what it was in 1998 when I showed up, but it is it's phenomenal. It's just like the whole gambling thing. The NFL fought gambling all the way to the Supreme Court. They 100% were against gambling, and there's no telling what they spent legally challenging the ruling that finally went against them. But you know what, Chip? They spent a lot of money
Mhm.
and a lot of time being ready for the moment if they lost, so that they could be involved with all of these fan duels and bet MGMs and these different things to be able to maintain some level of control, but also understanding how it was going to impact their business and make it the most positive way. They did with gambling the opposite of what the NCAA did with NIL. They
Oh,
they
yeah.
were they were 100% ready for it, which tells you about their business model. Now, if given a choice, I would say they would probably tell you, probably, that they would have rather the court case had gone the other way because it's a whole different level of things you now have to handle. But have they harnessed it well? You bet they have.
Well, and part of that too is the technology side of things that I mean, it touched the Titans this year. It is so down to the inch of where you are when you make bets and all of that, that really the NFL has a couple of just very basic rules for their players about when and where they can do any of this kind of stuff. And you don't cross those lines. And if you do, they're going to know about it.
Well, Nicholas Petit Frere is the player to
Yeah.
whom you make reference. He made a totally legal bet, but he did it at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. And because the league immediately went into all this 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, with these companies working together, they were able to track it. And do I think Nick did much wrong there? No, but the rule was a rule.
That's right.
And they eventually shortened it. They eventually came to some agreement and his suspension was shortened to 4 games. But that's the right thing to do. And because these companies are making so much money off the NFL, they want to partner. They want to be a good partner. And the NFL has so many of these relationships. It's like something Rich Eisen told me in London in October. He said, we're doing all these overseas games. He said, what we're going to end up with is we're going to end up with an overseas game every Sunday morning at 9:30 Eastern.
That's
So,
right.
so what that's going to do, Chip, is that's going to create a whole nother TV package. So you're
That's
going to have,
correct.
for us, you're going to have an 8:30 game, and then you're going to have a noon game, and then you're going to have a 3 o'clock game, and then you're going to have a Sunday night game. Nobody complains about too much football. No,
That's right.
nobody. I mean, when the Super Bowl is over a week from, whatever, when it's over, the day it ends, there's nobody going to say, "Oh man, I'm so glad there's no football." I've never met that person. I mean, maybe some people related to me who are tired of me focusing on it so much, but to the football fan, they kind of want everything all the time, and that's the league just keeps doing. It's like moving the Super Bowl into February. February is the biggest month for television. So if you're CBS and you have the game this weekend, you're going to be able to promote all of your new programs, which, by the way, didn't get started on time because of the writer's strike.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how valuable does the front porch of the Super Bowl become to the whole network in the month of February, which is the most important month for TV anyway?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, it all falls together, and so yeah, it is amazing their planning, and we learned firsthand a few years ago just how big an event the draft can be when
Mhm.
you had, a 500,000 people show up down there over a 3-day period. It was, I mean, and I went down there Friday night and just had an unbelievably good time as a fan, just walking around and doing all of that. It is they have found a way to take a 17 game schedule and make it a year-round event.
We have something in every month now.
Yeah.
So in January, you have the playoffs. In February, you have the Super Bowl, and you have part of the combine that
Mhm.
trickles into March, which is also free agency month.
Mhm.
The players return in April for off season. The draft is in April, trickling into May. May is the month of the schedule release now. That's become a thing. And then you also have the players on the field for the organized team activities in May. And then that carries over into June, and you get into the whole mini camp, whatever. Then you get just a little bit of a lull. That's the only lull we get anymore, is really the 5 to 6 weeks there. And then by
Mhm.
the end of July, it's on.
Yep.
And so then you've got football. And that's the way they want a tent pole event in every single month.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to kind of go back to where we started that question about is did you realize what kind of monster it was? And you said yes, you did. The other question that goes along with that, that me and a lot of your friends want to know is how in the heck did you get this job?
I got the job largely based on the fact that the company for whom I worked
Right.
was Dick Broadcasting in Knoxville. And when I got out of school, I had a daily sports talk show, and Dick Broadcasting forced me to sell the show, which was not what I wanted to do. I was so angry. Um, Came home and told my wife basically, I can't remember what I said exactly, but I thought I'd be looking for a job in 6 months because I didn't think there was any way I could sell. It's amazing how you can sell when you're desperate. It really is. it truly is a great motivator when you think you have no choice. Because the thing I wanted most of all was to be a broadcaster, and the only way I was going to get to be a broadcaster is if I sold. And so,
It was a
in
means to an end.
yeah, so I sold
Yeah.
advertising to everybody I knew. I spoke at every civic club that I could. I came up with different contests for clients. Um, and then the show became successful enough and the station became successful enough. They took me out of sales, but they would use me for a lot of the marketing things. How are we going to, Peyton Manning's last season at Tennessee, how are we going to market this? So I had told the president of our company, Alan Dick, at the moment that we got the rights to the games, I said, I'll do anything. I want to be involved in any way, shape, or form because I am fascinated by the NFL. And so I started with them the last year they were in Houston in 1996 and then continued into the Memphis year. You'll remember that the team got off to a very bumpy start here.
Mhm.
It seemed like every move the team made PR wise was the wrong move. Everything was a disaster. And they had nobody on their staff who was from here. No one. And so they had been talking through me. They wanted to add me in more of a broadcasting role, but then they kind of decided, they said, what if we hired him and he can run all over the countryside speaking? He likes to do that. He can help us in sales. He can help us sell tickets, all of these sorts of things. Because that's what I had done. That's what I'd been
Mhm.
forced to do. John Ward told me one time early on that I needed to get into sales because that's, as you know, that's what he did. he was not a broadcaster first and foremost. He was in advertising sales.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, as was my case in my 20s, I didn't want to listen to him or anybody else about anything. He was 100% right. And that's why I got the job. I did not get the job based on anything broadcasting wise. They just felt like they needed somebody who was here, boots on the ground. I mean, they'd heard me on the radio and they'd seen me on TV. They knew I could do some things. It wasn't that.
Right.
But that's not why they hired me.
And that is, and that's part of the story I'm not sure that I've ever heard. And I've known you through all of this, but it certainly does make sense. And you talked about the lessons you learned from John Ward. We're going to take a break, and you and I have a little bit of a connection there. You much deeper because you were there in Knoxville, but I have a little story to tell you that I'm not sure I've ever told you about, and that is with our common connection with the legendary and great John Ward, who was the longtime voice of the Tennessee Volunteers. We'll take a time out, step aside, be back with Mike Keith here on the Roundtable on WGNS. Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Hey guys, if you notice a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low T. Be sure to schedule your health assessment at Low T Center. They offer the convenience of physician-monitored, self-inject at-home testosterone treatments with an average payment of $150 a month, cash pay, including labs and medication. If you don't live near a Low T Center or just need the convenience of at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy, shipping treatments directly to you. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Shopping small is a way of supporting the people who live around you. We must keep small businesses healthy in order to keep our economy strong. In this new year, will you choose to support your local business owner in the historic downtown?
Historic downtown Murfreesboro is home to around 400 local businesses.
Downtown Murfreesboro has everything you need.
This Shop Local Reminder is brought to you by Main Street Murfreesboro.
Downtown Murfreesboro. Shop small and support your local downtown businesses in 2024.
Rutherford County is one of the fastest growing communities in Tennessee. This is Mike Klassen, the general manager at Middle Point Landfill. As a Class 1 landfill, Middle Point accepts non-hazardous municipal solid waste, approved special waste, and commercial waste. We have served this region for 2 decades, providing free disposal to all Rutherford County residents and low-cost disposal to Rutherford County businesses. Learn more at middlepointlandfill.com. For public services, we are sustainability in action.
Adams Place was a very, very good thing for us to do at our ages or earlier, because I would have been more able to do a lot of the things that are here for us to help us keep feeling younger.
I saw this young lady with her father, and she said, yeah, I'm trying to convince my dad that it's better to move in 5 years earlier than 5 minutes too late.
I'm Terry Deal. Call me about Adams Place. Phone 615-904-9111. Memorial Boulevard, across from Walmart.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and Americare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't, because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
WGNS has been keeping you informed for 77 years. The Red Cross is critically low on blood. In fact, they're at the lowest level of donors since 2 decades ago. So let's get together and give the gift of life. Phone the Red Cross and set a time to give blood when it fits your schedule. Phone now, 800-RED-CROSS, and you'll save a life. The Rutherford County Retired Teachers meets next week. not this week, but next Tuesday, February the 13th, 1:30 in the afternoon, and that's over at Greenhouse Ministries on South Academy Street. Don't miss this meeting. Very interesting one. It's about the history of Rutherford County education. It's presented by Bill Shacklett and Greg Tucker. Again, the Rutherford County Retired Teachers Meeting will be next week, Tuesday, February 13th, 1:30 in the afternoon at Greenhouse Ministries on South Academy Street. And for more Good Neighbor events, check our website, wgnsradio.com. And those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Good Neighbor weather. We'll see sunny skies here this afternoon with a high in the mid-60s. South winds of 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies develop below near 42. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 35.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. MTE has a solar expert and energy services supervisor to help its members understand if solar is right for them and help members avoid possible scams from outside parties. Learn more at mte.com/prosolar.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back into the Wednesday Roundtable here on WGNS. Happy to have good friend Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans, and interesting first segment talking about how he ended up in this position that he is in now with the Tennessee Titans. But one of the things that, and one of my favorite days when it all works out just right of the year in sportscasting is when Mike, myself, and Willie Donick sometimes get to work together calling TSSAA baseball championship games. And that is just like unleashing a barrel of monkeys in the press box. And we just have that is so much fun because it is where we all started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a baseball announcer first and foremost. Yeah. Did Tennessee, did the Knoxville Smokies, who were at that time the Knoxville Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess close to 1,000 baseball games, something like that. So when I get to go back and work with you guys, I love the game like you do, and it's just fun to see it, to know it's for a state championship, and just to be around baseball.
And the other part of it to me, whether it's the Blue Cross Bowl or the state basketball championships or baseball, is that you and I and all of us who get involved in that, we get to, the pressure on us there is to make that moment for those communities across the state who are having the biggest day their community has ever had to make that special for them.
Yeah. And it's pressure.
Yeah.
When I got a chance to do Baylor McCallie for the state championship in Chattanooga late last year in what was, the biggest Baylor McCallie game ever. And some people, Ronnie Carter said it's the biggest high school football game in the state of Tennessee's history. I don't know if that's true, but I got to tell you, I was nervous. We welcomed some clients for lunch down there for our radio station, WGOW. So we had a luncheon for them to thank them for being sponsors of the Titans and being sponsors of high school football down there and everything, just to celebrate the day. I was so nervous I almost couldn't eat. And that's not normally a problem, but you Chip, you don't want to blow it.
Oh no, because those people, every one of those people in there, they're DVR in the game and all of that. And it's going to be, that day is going to live on for years to come in those communities. And you're right. I had the game right before the Baylor McCallie game, and you guys were coming in and we were trying to clear out and all of that. But you started at WAGG in Franklin. I started at WKRM in Columbia as a 15-year-old running the board for Nashville Sounds games. Well, we had a player and eventually that year, I actually started doing the Columbia Central High School games when I was 17 on WKRM. We had a player named Fred Jenkins who went on to Tennessee and then on to the Houston Rockets. But he's still the best high school player I've ever seen in person. But Bob Burton, who was on Don DeVoe's staff, was in charge of recruiting Fred Jenkins. And in the old Columbia gym, where I sat out on a catwalk to call the games, was a place that Bob could come and sit next to me and not have to sign a bunch of autographs the whole night. So anyway, he and I kind of struck up a friendship, and knowing that I was getting ready to go to college and my dream was to be the team broadcaster for a university. That was what I wanted to do. And I said, Bob, do you think if I brought you a tape of my games that you could get John Ward to listen to it and critique me? And he goes, oh, of course, no problem. So I'm thinking, okay, either he can, or he's just telling me that it's just one more leg up to get Fred to sign with Tennessee. Well, of course, the next time he showed up, I had the tape, had football on one side, it was a cassette, had basketball on the other. He takes it with him, and I don't think anything about it. About 3 or 4 months later, this is by the time my freshman year in college, and come home one weekend, and my mom said, hey, you got some mail in there. And I go in, and there's a number 10 envelope, cream colored, that had the return address Award Productions, Knoxville, Tennessee. Opened it up, and there's my cassette tape. But you know what else was in there, Mike? There was a 3-page, single-spaced, typewritten letter that had the left margin was a little off each paragraph, because what John Ward had done was listen, typed out his thoughts, took it out, came back to it later. But 3 pages, and just unbelievable. And how if there was something he thought I needed to correct, the way he did that by telling me in a letter, he goes, hey, at this point, you described this football play in a certain way. He goes, the way I have described that play is this, and it works well for me. You might want to try that. But every time he did that, he also followed it up with, hey, right after this, that throw to the tight end, you described it this way. I really like that. I may want to use that. So, I mean, he really did such a good job. And then my first job out of college was with Tennessee Radio Network, working on the Vandy crew, and went to Stokely in January for the first Vandy Tennessee basketball game of the year. Walk out the catwalk to the press box that hung off the ceiling. The only person out there at the time that Bob Horner and I got there to set up equipment was John down on the other end. So Bob went to set up equipment. I go down to the other end. I said, Mr. Ward, just want to say hello. My name is Chip Walters. He goes, you're the kid from Columbia. And from then on, for the rest of his life, we had a really nice relationship. But it was that kind of mentoring that he did for so many people, myself, yourself included, that made him so very, very special.
What carries on.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, because as we are the age that we are now, he was probably pretty close to that age at the time that he took that point out of his life to listen to your tape. And it was proven by the fact of what he wrote in the letter. It wasn't just, hey, talk slower, or, a bunch of vague generalities. He was very specific.
Say, give him 6. No.
Chip, you think about the fact now, as you look at it from the picture of being the voice of the Blue Raiders, and you think about the time he put into that, it makes it even more special. And that was John. John was committed to the craft. He was a Kappa Sig at Tennessee, and he was famous for sitting in the stands at intramural games and talking into a tape recorder, like the Kappa Sigs were taking on the Sigma Chi's in volleyball or softball or whatever. He did high school games. He called one of my dad's high school games when my dad played for Fulton High School, and was all city in 1957. And one of my dad's great memories was being interviewed by John Ward on WKGN. So that's where he came from. He never forgot where he came from. And he wanted to pass along that part of the craft to other people, which I think, he was an unusual personality. John was he was not like anybody I've ever met. There was no small talk with John. Personal warmth was not his thing. And I'll tell you why I think that is now, because I think he was just so flippin' smart. I mean, he was a genius intellect. I had a cousin who went to law school with him, who, he skipped 3 grades in elementary school. Both his parents were teachers. He skipped 3 grades in elementary school. He never cracked a book, according to my cousin in law school. Never cracked a book. He had graduated law school at 21 and then never took the bar. Never took the bar because his passion was broadcasting, but what he wanted to do is he wanted to sell advertising and be able to control what he broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how he got the Tennessee basketball job first, and that was how he eventually ended up with the Tennessee football job. I had more warm interactions with him much later in his life, and that was really, really special because I kind of got to see a little bit of all of it when I was a student. He wasn't scared to tell me when I did something wrong, and it was oftentimes it could be crushing because it was the voice of the Vols telling you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as he sort of got me a little bit humbled, I began to do things more and more his way, handle myself more and more his way. And by the time I left after 11 years with him, I was, I was a made man at that point. It took that long, and then during my time with the Titans, he would occasionally drop me a note. Hey, nice job. Really proud of you. He would have me show up to different things for him. Some of his bigger clients, he had me do things for because he still did natural
Gas.
And then he was very pleased when I took over as the spokesperson for the insurers of Tennessee. And there were a lot of younger people who had no idea why I said it that way, but John told me to.
That's right. And in your favorite television was a Philco.
Philco. What do you call Phil Cox without the X? Philco. Yes.
That's right. And the thing, if there are folks who are listening today that are John Ward fans and you enjoy these type of stories, you need to go back on YouTube and find his memorial service because it is filled with some of the greatest stories ever. Now, moving forward, as you got into the role with the Titans, and now you have this relationship with Dave McGinnis, which has become magical here, and the new set of language that Coach McGinnis has come up with. Like I've now tried to incorporate, intercontinental into my description of pass
Yes.
routes and things like that.
Transcontinental.
Transcontinental. He has got all the stuff now, and when it comes to being able to come up and I'm curious, is as a fan of you guys and listening and all of that, does he do as much work as it sounds like he does prior to the draft and going like you guys went to the Senior Bowl last week and all of that?
He's already reviewed 200 players. He's already scouted 200 players, and he'll do well over 300, and he'll write them up just as he would when he worked for the Bears or for the Cardinals or for the Titans or for the Rams. Rhett Bryan takes notes for him at certain points, like they were watching practice at the Senior Bowl, and he was asking questions about certain players to Rhett for just fine points. How tall, what did he weigh in at? And Rhett has all those answers for him because Rhett is his understudy to a certain extent. Rhett doesn't know football and didn't coach football for as long as Coach Mack did. But Coach Mack will have, he'll do his own board. It's crazy. I mean, it's totally crazy. And so I've sort of gone the other way. I used to do a lot of write-ups on my own just about bios. I wouldn't write up, he's got great lateral speed, because I don't know that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know that. Right. But I'll know guys, like I know Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver from Georgia's story. I know what he's all about in terms of who all he beat out while he was at Georgia and those sorts of things. So I try to go in that direction, and then I try to play point guard to Rhett and to Coach Mack. And Ramon Foster has now gotten real into that too. They watch tape together, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to listen to, because I realize I'm getting something there that, I could never do for sure.
Yeah, it is listening to him on the when the coverage that you all do for the draft in particular, and to know, and you now confirming that all of that is work that he's put in is really, really impressive. Mike Keith is our guest today, the voice of the Tennessee Titans. We'll take a timeout. This hour's flying by. Back with our final segment after this here on WGNS.
When you have fire, water, or storm damage, Farrah Construction can help. Farrah Construction is also there to help when a car slams through the wall. Call Farrah Construction and we'll board up, put down tarps, secure your home or business until the insurance coverage is approved. Call Farrah Construction at 615-893-6120. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Rayburn Insurance in Smyrna.
Come see me, Rick Hall, at Rayburn Insurance in downtown Smyrna today.
Online at rayburn.net.
This is Kim Dunaway from Sunshine Nutrition Center. You hear me on Monday mornings at 7:20 talking about how to lead a healthier lifestyle. We carry supplements, personal care, and grocery items at both our Murfreesboro and Smyrna locations, family owned and operated since 1989.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
French's Shoes and Boots is the #1 place to shop for boots, shoes, apparel, accessories, and much more. Family owned and operated since 1903, French's is always stocked with the top brands in work and western wear. French's is the best place in the South to get Hey Dude shoes for the whole family with the best selection in town. French's Shoes and Boots, your hometown store for boots, shoes, and more.
Shop at French's. French's Shoes and Boots.
1837 South Church Street in Murfreesboro.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back to the Wednesday Roundtable here on WGNS. Mike Keith is our guest today, and again, appreciate him for taking his time to be part of this. And we have talked pretty much about everything or certain things, but instead, and not a whole lot about Titans football. But it will have a new face on it, obviously, this fall, and well, actually, as we move into the draft, Brian Callahan, the new head coach, is really, I think, has made a really good first impression. And Mike, we've both had to go through, in the organizations that we deal with, we've gone through a coaching change, and that is the best word I can come up with for any of that. It's jarring to the people that are involved in it, and you have feelings for the people who were there, but you have a job to do, and you hope that the next thing is even better than what it was. It's one of those things that you have to walk a fine line to handle, and people have to understand that anytime that you compliment Brian Callahan about something, it is not a dig at Mike Vrabel. Same with me. If I say something nice about Derek Mason, that's not a dig at Rick Stockstill.
100%. And it's a very hard balance to walk. I think the world of Mike Vrabel.
Mhm.
I'm not going to stop thinking the world of Mike Vrabel.
Exactly.
And when people would watch us on the TV show and he would be giving me the business, I mean, that was all real. The TV show on Channel 2, even when we were losing, was appointment television for some people because they just wanted to see what he would do to me. And my wife, especially, she loved that. Mike's a good football coach.
Absolutely.
But, the thing that we keep in mind in all of this is we're not the university president, we're not the athletic director, we're not the owner, we're the announcers. And our time is specifically, and our role is about being the announcers. I'll never call a play. I'll never pick a player. I'll never trade a player. I'll never hire or fire a coach. And so what I can tell you is what I told somebody at church walking out, the last week and said again this week when asked about him. I really like Brian Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things, I don't know him well yet, but I think one of the things about Brian that is going to work is that he's very different from Mike. Amy Adams Strunk wanted somebody who was very different. She did not go get the same guy. She did not look for the same style guy. And I'm not talking about offense or defense. I'm talking about a different personality and
a different voice,
different look at things. If you're going to make a change, whether the voting on one side is for it or against it, that doesn't matter. When you're the owner, it doesn't make any difference. You do what you want to do. But she had an idea of the person, the coach, and the personality she wanted. And Brian is really that nice a guy. He is that smooth of a guy. He fits well with the general manager, Rand Carthon, who has a bigger role. He fits well with Chad Brinker, our president of football operations, who obviously has a bigger role. And this is her vision for it. So to me, if you were listening to her talk about her vision for the organization and where it would go, this was the perfect style coach. I think his offensive background impresses me. I'm excited about that, especially for Will Levis. But Chip, the thing I was looking for in this is I said, just give me a head coach. And you have experienced this probably in a variety of sports too, is oftentimes they bring you a good football coach who's not a head coach. And being that guy who runs the whole thing is a big part of it. Brian Callahan's ready for that. He's ready for the media responsibilities. He's ready to organize his staff. He's ready to deal with all of 53 players, not just one group or one side of the ball. He's prepared for all of this. And if you talk about impressive, yeah, really impressive guy.
Yeah, he certainly is. And again, his first impression has been terrific. I think, there will be lots of sub stories that go along with this as he puts his staff together. But I think obviously one of the coolest is to be able to bring his dad in as the offensive line coach.
Yeah, that's great. Bill Callahan is as respected, if not the most respected offensive line coach in the National Football League. He is a coach's coach. When you talk, and that, it's funny because that's the way Dave McGinnis was when he coached linebackers. And that's why he's still, wherever we go, Chip, everybody wants to talk to Coach Mack. It's so stunning because you will see these guys and you'll go, wait a minute, that's Mean Joe Green. And he's talking to Coach, dying to talk to Coach Mack. That's the same thing that's the same way it is with a guy like Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan is so respected. And whoever he wants in his offensive line, if he believes we have current players who can make us be a good offensive line, great. If he believes there are certain free agents we need, great. Whoever he wants in the draft, give him those players. That's going to get fixed because I think Bill Callahan is going to be the glue that's going to put all of that together. And the second part, and to your point about working with Brian getting to work with his dad, what a thrill.
Well, we saw it here with Rick and Brent.
Yeah.
How special it was.
Yeah, what a thrill. And it's kind of the opposite thing that usually the father hires the son.
Mm-hmm.
I can't ever remember the son hiring the father. Um, I was interested to see how that job interview might go. You know, I don't think they actually did that, but that might have been a lot of fun. Um, Somebody asked me, they said, "Would you have liked to have worked with your father?" Absolutely not. Absolutely. My brother did it for nearly 30 years, and they did very well together. I don't think that would have worked well for me, especially had I been the boss. That really wouldn't have gone over big. But for Brian, I think he'll do great. I think it's good for the football team. I think it's a wonderful story for the Callahan
Yeah.
family, and I give Cleveland credit too, because they didn't have to do that, but you know what they did? They did the right thing,
Yeah.
and there'll be karma for them back from that somehow.
Yeah. The and one thing you mentioned about when it comes to to Coach Callahan, Bill Callahan, with the offensive line. Obviously, that is an area that probably needed as much attention as anything. Do you feel like having a guy of his stature when it comes to, in particular, free agent signings, that he could make the difference if it comes down to the Titans or the Rams, where somebody's going to go, a big free agent offensive lineman, that having Bill Callahan here could make the difference?
If the money's even,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I tell the people that I'm closest with when they want to sit and talk to me about free agency, they're like, "Well, they're going to want to come here because everybody wants to live here." It's like, well, yeah, it's a great place and we all love it. But for $2 million, they'll go to Green Bay. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, money's undefeated. And so if the factors that we have is if the money is equal, we're going to get people because of where we are, because of the organization that we have, and because of Bill Callahan. You say, yeah, this guy can make you a better player. I want to work with him. He has a good vision for what I do. Um, that's the thing. You know, I've had a chance to be around two offensive line coaches that were through the roof good. Philip Fulmer was through the roof good. I mean, he could take all different sorts of parts. And, you know, the thing Philip did is he made people play every position. You had to play everything for Philip Fulmer. You cross trained at guard and tackle and center. He would always have 4 or 5 guys that could snap the ball. So at a moment's notice, he could move a center in there. Everybody knew every role, and everybody knew how, when they dropped in, they had to communicate. And then to come here and to see Mike Munchak and how similar that was, Chip, with the communication and the cross training. And, you know, Fulmer had him hit a sled. Munchak had him hit a sled. I'm going to be interested to see if Callahan still has him hit a sled. But the masters at that position, and like I said, I've had a chance to see 2 of them. Doesn't mean I know anything at all about offensive line play. But what it does mean, I think, is that I've seen 2 guys who do the job, even with slightly different personalities, but there's so much technique, there's so much teaching, and there's so much about communication, because, you know, that's what we saw several times with issues from us, is we'd drop somebody in there and there'd be some disaster because somebody would go the wrong way or pick up the wrong man, or it wasn't like they were being run over or they couldn't handle it or they weren't trying. We would just make mistakes. Well, then the funny thing is, the next week we'd have those 5 guys practice together for the whole week, and then we'd go out and we'd play a little better, and you'd say, well, maybe we've got this figured out. Then you'd lose another guy, you drop a guy in, it was
Yeah.
another disaster. So the fascinating part to me is how many players on the current roster, how many players who either played for us last year or are still under contract right now will be a part of Bill Callahan's answer to get us fixed. I think that's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, it's one of those things that'll play out, and just as the NFL year-round news cycle continues, that'll be part of it. We got just about 4.5 minutes left, so I want to ask you kind of the quick hitters here. Will Levis, you talked about him. Is he the real deal?
He's the real deal in terms of the way he's tracking. And that's the important part. What he showed, Chip, is he showed the ability to do things physically that we probably haven't ever had a quarterback do, or at least haven't had a quarterback do since Steve McNair. Now, this guy doesn't have the legs McNair had, but he has a better arm, and he can make plays because he's a good athlete by getting away from people. He can throw it on the run. He can put it in places that most defensive backs can't get to. So what happens with Will Levis is, how does the next step go? Does he continue to progress? If he does, it's the biggest win for this franchise that we've had in probably 15 years, because he's not costing an arm and a leg for the next 2 years, meaning that you could build other spots on the roster before you ever have to pay him. So I say tracking the right way, but I don't think you put the whole stamp of approval thing on yet until you start to see him in year 2.
All right, prediction number 2. Where does Derrick Henry, what roster will he be on this fall? And what would be the percentage that it is the Tennessee Titans?
The percentage that's most interesting is he took 7.04% of the Titans roster in terms of his salary cap cost last year. That's just Derrick alone. The 14 playoff teams spent 2.5% of their salary cap roster on their running back rooms, meaning 3 to 4 running backs cost roughly a third of what the Titans paid Derrick Henry. So the question becomes, as the Titans reset the salary cap, how much of a percentage are they going to put into the running back going forward, or do they take more of that money and put it in receivers or tight ends or offensive tackles? What do they do there? That's the question. Derrick Henry himself is not a question. He can play. He can still play. Chip, if he's lost anything, it's minuscule.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, if you're the Titans and you're trying to reset, to recalibrate, can you afford to pay a running back? Because not many teams in the league are. Those are the decisions that Ran Carthon and Chad Brinker have to make, even sort of over and above the head coach, because they're making a philosophical decision on what the salary cap is going to look like going forward. It's tough. I mean, from a personal standpoint, and from your heart standpoint, it hurts. From the business standpoint and redeveloping this thing, it's a decision that has to be made.
Do you miss our friend Kevin Byard?
Yes.
What a guy.
100%. I mean,
what
best.
A pro. What a pro.
What a pro and what a person. But again, caught in the whole thing that people aren't paying safeties the same sort of dough as they're paying corners now. And that's all that was. I mean, they knew that after this past year, that was going to be it. And so they sent him somewhere he wanted to go and got something for him. Do we miss him? Yes. Do I miss him? Yes. But I also understand the business part of it. Like we talked about the coaching part earlier. You just understand that things change and times change. And these kids playing 7-on-7 all summer, they look, that's football now. That comes to TSU, that comes to Tennessee, and that comes to Vanderbilt. And then that translates to the NFL. The game is now outside in. And that's the difference in where it was even 10 years ago.
That's exactly right. Mike, we've gone an hour and we did not talk about the Music City Miracle. How about that? Not that I'm surprised, because we had so much more to talk about. That kind of stands on its own. I really appreciate you taking time, and enjoy some off time when you get it after the draft, and be able to recharge, and looking forward to another great fall of Titans football, and it'll have a new look to it. And I promise I'll call you again and we'll do this again.
Please. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans. Glad to have him on with us. If you missed any of this, you can go to the podcast section of WGNSradio.com and relive all the excitement and the thrill of victory that we had here with Mike today. Stand by. There's more coming up all day long right here on the Big G, WGNS.